because of their anti-immigrant rhetoric and violent protests like this one. Last month, Facebook called the Soldiers of Odin a hate group and banned them. But the group has found a warmer welcome at the Grande Prairie branch of the Royal Canadian Legion. Several branch members are also members of the Soldiers of Odin, and last week the Legion rented its hall to the group for a community dinner. The Legion insists it did its research.
They are not a racial group, they're not anti-immigration, they're not neo-Nazi skinheads, okay? They're just a group of people who want to do things for the community.
But the Soldiers of Odin's factions across Canada paint a different picture, taking part in anti-immigration protests from Vancouver to Toronto. The Grande Prairie chapter says,
"We've always been pro-immigration, saying that, we're all about legal immigration. I don't think anybody really wants to see mass amounts of people walking across borders."
The Canadian Anti-Hate Network says, don't be fooled.
We are seeing expressions of hate that we have never seen before in modern age.
It points out the soldiers started out as neo-Nazis in Finland, are known to conduct patrols in neighborhoods or even shopping malls where they harass immigrants, demanding ID.
Of all organizations to take them under their wing, for lack of a better term, the Royal Canadian Legion, you would think would be the last one to do so. Here we have a group that has its roots in the actual groups that veterans fought during World War II. It's kind of a sad and terrible irony.
We reached out to provincial and national Legion leadership. The national office says it asked the provincial office to look into it. Alberta says they have and believe no bylaws have been broken. Rafi Bujikanian, CBC News, Edmonton.
To get a sense of just how prevalent white nationalist groups are in Canada, we went to Barbara Perry, one of Canada's leading experts in right-wing extremism.
We're thinking now it's well over 200, closing in on 300 active groups across Canada.
You see them online and at protests. Groups like Storm Alliance, Northern Guard, and the Three Percenters, a group that dresses in paramilitary gear and acts as security at rallies. To one, they brought the devices that are used to stun cattle. Nearly 4,000 people follow the Alberta chapter online, and right-wing politics in Europe and the United States is giving their ideology a boost.
I think that's part of the context that's contributing to not just the growth, but the emboldening and empowering of these groups.
In a word, fear.
A sense of threat, the replacement of white Europeans, and specifically white Christian Europeans, by shifting immigration patterns.
Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, homophobia, and misogyny all play a role. And geography matters.
In Alberta, for example, long history there of anti-Indigenous sentiment. That's being now, I wouldn't say replaced, but supplemented by hostility towards newcomers. Looking at Quebec, a very different dynamic there. It's an extension of the history of religious conflict there.
Recruitment does happen offline, in person, and in posters, but it drives people online where they don't just get involved, they get connected.
Toronto white nationalists connecting with Calgary white nationalists, but also then connecting with those in Europe, in France, or in Birmingham, for example. So I think that that's really powerful to have that sense of belonging to something that big.
And in that world, hateful ideas suddenly seem so normal. These groups don't just need people to survive, they need cash. Some rely on donations, and some charge membership fees to get past their public portals and into the inner circle.